Hi guys, you're welcome back to Shion Stitches, and we're going to be making this shirt dress here um with just a little alteration, just a very little alteration. So I have 2 yards of this mustard color crepe fabric here. That is what we're going to be using for this style, and I also have these bias. I have my buttons and I have this hairstay that I'm going to be using in the absence of collar stay. So first thing first, we're going to be drafting the skirt part, and I have my vertical lines. So I have my horizontal line, sorry. Now I'm going to be taking the distance between my, I've removed my upper part, so I have just the waist measurement divided by 4, add your 1 inch allowance, and I'm also going to input my hip measurement divided by 4 plus my 1 inch allowance. What I have on the paper is just my half length measurements, from the waist downwards to where I want my skirt to get to. Then also I'm going to mark the down part, which is the hip measurement, whatever I have there minus 1 inch. Now I'm joining all of these lines together from the waist to the hip, from the hip to the hem of the skirt. Now, if you notice, I haven't added the allowance here. I'm just joining the main measurements together. So I'm going to go back and now mark out the allowance, the 1 inch allowance. The reason I used 1 inch is because there is no lining. So I'm just going to be using 1 inch for my measurement. So I'm blending in from the hip to the hem of the gown. So I have that already, and I'm going to cut out the excess, after which I'm going to use this paper pattern to cut out my skirt on the fabric. Now note, this is the back piece. This is a shirt and the front has button. So this is the back piece. I'm going to use this back piece also to cut out the front piece that has the button flaps. Now I'm using 2 inches on fold for the flaps, so I'm cutting this out as well. Now we are done with the down part of the fabric. We're going to move to the upper part, and I'm going to be cutting this together. The extra one, the one below is the front. That's the one with the button flaps. So I have my joining allowance starting line there, which is going to serve as my joining allowance, and I measured what I have there is just my half length of 17 inches. So now I'm going to take my shoulder measurement divided by 2. I'm going to mark it right there, as you can see in the video. After which I'm going to go down for my armhole length, where I'm going to be able to create my armhole curve. So I went down by 8.5 inches here. I'm going to extend that line. Now I want to take my neck measurement. So for the width, I did 2.5 inches width for both the front and the back. Do not forget the excess that the under part is just for the flap. So for the width, for the depth, for the back piece, do not forget the back piece is the one closed. So for the back piece, I have 1 inch as my neck depth, and for the front piece, I did 2.5 inches for my neck depth. The width is 2.5 inches, but the back depth is 1 inch and the front depth is 2.5 inches, and that is that for the neck area. Now moving on, I'm going to, on my chest line, I'm trying to create my armhole line so I can have a box or a square or a rectangle there. Okay, so I'm just going to make that straight line. I did that just because I want it to be straight. So after which I'm going to create my bust measurement. That is my bust measurement divided by 4. Then I added half inch for his, half inch for his, then 1 inch sewing allowance. That is because I don't want it to be tight around the bust area. So I added half inch to my bust measurement. Now I'm going to create my armhole curve. Next thing is to mark my waist measurement. So my waist measurement divided by 4, and I added 1 inch sewing allowance. Then we're going to connect all of these lines together. And there is that. We are done with the marking, so we can cut out our excesses now. Now I remember I didn't put my slants, so that was my slants I did now. So please be careful when you're cutting out the neck measurement, so you don't cut front piece on back piece, guys. So we are done with cutting the front piece now. So we're going to be moving to the sewing part. So I'm going to open up my front pieces this way, and I'm going to take my back piece. That's because I'm joining the upper pieces together first. You know, this is not the traditional way to make dresses, but just to watch, you're going to understand why I did that. So I'm going to join them by the shoulders. Then I'm going to close up the side seams. Just make sure they're properly aligned. Now that I'm done joining them, you can see this is what I have. Next thing you're going to do is I'm going to turn it inside out, and that's the reason I joined the upper pieces together first. So because there is something we need to do on the waist area, you know, there is this opening there. So we're going to flip it to the other side of the dress. Then we're going to mark our opening. You're going to decide how much you want to open. In my own case, what I did was I went upwards by 2 inches because I didn't want too much opening. I did not want too much opening, so I went in by 2 inches, and I went up by 2 inches. Then towards the inside, I went in by 2.5 inches, after which I created a curve. And I connected the dots together at this point. Now, because you want to have accurate measurements, I'm just going to use this side, place it on the other side of the top so that I can have exact measurements there. So align it properly, then you cut out, and we have our opening. So to clean up our opening, that is where the bias comes in. You're going to use the bias to turn it in. You know, this wouldn't have been possible if we had joined the upper part and the down part separately. So that was the reason I joined the upper pieces together first. So we're just going to use our bias to clean up the edges of the opening we just made, and we set that aside. So this is how it looks like after using the bias on it. So now you're going to take your back pieces, front to match up with front. The 2 pieces at the front, you're going to match it up with the upper part, and also the back piece, you're going to match it up with the other back area. So I'm opening up my pieces now, making sure the right is going to the right and the left is going to the left. So you're just going to join with half of an inch up to where you have the opening by the sides. You're also going to do that for the other side. Then you flip it over. Then you flip it over and also mark the center line. You want to know where the center line is. I have mine because I ironed it already, but I'm just going to mark it that way. Then you take the skirt piece, the back skirt piece, and you also look for the center line there. Also give it a visible mark that you see, that you'll be able to see yourself. So I just give it a little mark that I know that is visible enough for me at the point of sewing. Match it together, and also you join by half of an inch. Then after joining, here is what it looks like at the front. This is the front piece, and this is how the back looks like. So the next thing we want to do now is to fold in. We are going to join the side seams, the skirt part. Join the side seams with your 1 inch seam allowance, and also you're going to do the other side of the skirt. Join with 1 inch sewing allowance that you left up to the hem. And after doing that, here is what it looks like. The next part is to fold in our bottom flap, and to do that, what we left is 2 inches, so you're going to fold over 1 inch, then you fold it over again with another 1 inch, then you stitch it down, and you also do the same thing to the other side of the dress. And after doing that, here is what we have. So the next thing we're going to do now to work on is, you can just, at this point, you can hem your down part. I have added my sleeves already off camera, so I fixed the slip. We have just the collar to finish up, and also the opening by the sides. You just roll over it and stitch it inside. So for the collar, I already marked it on my stay because I did not have collar stay at hand, so I'm going to replicate it on this paper so you can see. So what I'm going to do first is take your neck measurement on the dress, fold it together this way, then take your measurements and whatever you have, so just take your measurement the same way I'm doing mine now. And what I have here is about exactly 9 inches. So that 9 inches is what we're going to be working with. So you're going to take your paper, make sure your paper is on fold. What I have right there is on fold. So I'm just going to create a starting line first so that we can have, a straight and accurate pattern. So I'm just going to create a starting line for this piece. That's the line I'm marking now. So now remember what we have on the collar on our neckline is 9 inches. So you're going to mark your 9 inches on your pattern paper, exactly 9 inches. And from that point, you're going to go up by 1 inch on that point. So you're going to go up by 1.5 inches. Then you're also going to do it on the other side because you want to make it into a straight line. Now you're going to connect it together at this point. I'm showing you that I have my paper on fold. So you're going to connect it into a beautiful little rectangle at this point. Join all of your dots together. Next thing you're going to do is, on that pointy edge, you're just going to go in by 1 inch. As you can see me do in the video, go in by 1 inch, make a dot right there. And from that dot, you go up by 2 inches. Make another dot. Then you connect that dot to make it into a straight line. Now right there, you're going to go out by 1/2 inch. Then you mark it into that angle. Just slant it into it. Next thing you want to do is you're going to mark your 2 inches again to be sure you're still on the right track. Then you go to the folded part, mark 1.5. Remember we had 2 inches on the other side. Mark 1.5. Then connect it together. Now we're almost done. The next thing you want to do is around the collar, the little collar, the down part of the collar, just create a slant, like a little curve, because you're not going to be having a pointy collar stand. So now we've created our curve. The last thing we want to do is on the down part where we have our starting line, just go in by 1/4 inch. That is a 0.25. Just go in by 0.25 from the starting line, just a little, and then you blend it into the starting line. Just blend it in, and that is all about the collar stay. So that is exactly what I have on my hairstay. I just needed to replicate it so you can understand it. So now I'm just going to cut out the excesses on my hairstay right now. Just cut out everything, no allowance. Now that I've cut it out, the next thing you want to do is you want to take your fabric piece and open up your hairstay on it, your collar pattern, and you iron it properly so it stays to the fabric. Make sure you have enough around the piece, for your allowance. Make sure you have about half of an inch all around what you're doing. Now after ironing, you want to fold over this piece. By this point, I'm about to iron, so I haven't ironed it. So just go ahead and iron, after which you're going to fold it over. As you can see, make sure you have enough be under your fabric. Check very well so you don't run out of fabric. So now the next thing you want to do is you're going to cut it out. Make sure you have half of an inch, enough for you to sew on. So that is what I'm doing right now. And you're just going to open up this part you see me open on the collar stand and iron it over the hairstay. Just iron it. After ironing, then you're going to take it to the sewing machine and you're going to sew from that folded part. You're going to sew over it this way, closely to the hairstay, into the angle, back to the collar, then to the other side, and you also you sew over the folded part. Then after doing that, you're going to iron it. So this is what we have here. I'm just going to cut out the excesses outside the sewing we just made. So you're going to notch into the angles, you're going to notch it properly. Then the pointy edge, you're just going to cut out the excesses there so that by the time you pull it out, you're going to have your pointy edges intact. So now you're going to fold it over and push out what you need. At this point, you can also iron that remaining half-inch joining, the remaining half-inch allowance rather. So now I'm going to iron it. So this is what we have. Then you can decide to just run a stitch on this to divide the collar stand and the collar itself to make it look like it was, it wasn't cut together. So after doing that, what you're going to do is you're going to take your pin and attach that extra half-inch. Just pin it to your neck area on the dress. Then you're going to use the remaining half-inch to cover it up this way. Push in your seams, the rough edges of your seams. Push it in, then fold it over it like this. Fold your collar over it like this. Then you run a neat stitch over it and your collar is ready. So here is what it looks like after that. So for the button flap, what I did was I just used my manual sewing machine to do it because I just needed to, do it at that time. So what I did was to use my manual sewing machine and I fixed the buttons as well. I hemmed the down part and that is all that I did on it. So just decide how the distance between your button holes, and that is all, guys. So here is our finished dress. Here is what it looks like. I have the button on the left part of the dress and I have the button holes on the right side. So this is exactly what we have. Like I said, I have closed up this part here, the opening here. I just rolled over and I stitched it down, and I've also hemmed the down part of the dress. And so this is what we have. So guys, thank you for watching this video, and do not forget to hit the subscribe button if you're not yet subscribed. Thank you guys, and we'll see again in another video. Bye.